Hi everyone! Half of the December is already here. Really? Oh my gosh, I will never finish this intro. Hello everyone! December is here, so it means that it's time for another finished pages video. And I know, I mean, this looks awesome, but it feels nothing like December. More like October, November, but that's maybe not that bad, because in today's video I will be showing you the finished pages that I colored in October and December and November. In October and November. And I'm sure that you all cannot wait to see all of these finished pages. So let's go home and just let's go to my desk and show you all the pages. Finally at home, but let me first put this aside so we will have some space for all the coloring books. It's always the worst to figure out what everything I colored, but fortunately I have my list of pages that I colored and I'm trying to keep track on the date as well. And thanks to that I was able to find all the coloring books that I was coloring in, so let's jump into this pile. Let's start with the coloring book by Trolle. This is one of her newest coloring books. And I have two pictures, well actually 1.5. This picture is still in progress. I need to finish the elf and also, well, what else? I don't know, maybe some details on the background. I would like to add some stars and maybe define some frame around the picture. So this is still unfinished, but this one is finished. And this page actually reminds me a lot of a page from Johanna's Christmas by Johanna Basford. This is the page that I colored in 2021. And if I compare both pages, the difference is so huge. It's so incredible. That's crazy. You can see much more detail. This was basically at the beginning of my coloring journey. I wasn't coloring for that long. I think I was using some very cheap watercolors from AliExpress. I remember that I struggled a lot. You can see it's not blended at all. True, the paper in this coloring book, this is Czech edition, so the paper in this book is terrible. Anyway, with better watercolors that I was using on this picture, you can really manage nice result. And seeing just the new page all alone, all by itself, it doesn't give you that punch of your progress. You really need to see some of your older picture next to your newest picture. Not really to see, but to realize that you really did the progress. Let's continue with Mythomorphia by Kerby Rosanes. And actually in the past 2 months I realized that this was the only picture I colored in all the Kerby Rosanes books. Anyway, I started this page some time ago and I had some kind of idea of this color palette and I wanted to make it all green, which I did. At first I was using watercolors for the whole page, but after weeks or months before I get to continue on this page, my vision of the page changed, of course. So this is the result. And the only thing I would change is that I would add more warm green to the Meine. I realized that when it was too late. I could probably fix it, but I didn't want to spend more and more hours on this page. So I'm just leaving it like this and I'm quite happy with it. I was using a lot of oil pastels. The frame around the background, that's all oil pastels. And then I was also using some acrylic markers or acrylic brush pens. And I was trying to make flames on its wings and actually here all over its body. Let's continue with Halloween by Hanna Karlzon. And I actually colored a lot of pages in this book. Some of them were colored in September, but I should have 2.5 pages. Yes, this is the page I did in October, and this was quite simple. It's all watercolors on the background and Prismacolors for the illustration. I also did some golden splashes. Then I have this page, which is not finished, and it's on my YouTube channel as full page color along. However, the Halloween already ended, so that's why I didn't continue on the last part, but I plan to finish it, so if you follow along, you will have all parts all together. Then there is this unfinished page. For now, this is just watercolors, so there will be some pencil work on top of it, maybe a little bit of oil pastels, I'm not sure yet. And then there is this page. I was using acrylic markers. I'm not sure at this moment whether I was using Ohuhu or Artex, but you can see it in the video. And I did the whole background with these acrylic markers, and then the illustration was colored with colored pencils. Let's move to Johanna Basford's Magical Worlds. I have a lot of pages here, but in October I colored one page, which could be which is here. Yeah. I was using watercolors for the background and all the colored pencils for the illustrations, and also a little bit of oil pastels for the frame. Oh, and when I'm looking at it, I see that here I was also using some acrylic markers. Again, Ohuhu or Artex, one of this brand. And it was really challenging to create the glass effect. This is still something that I need to learn, and I experiment with that a lot. You will see it on another picture. The highlights and glass reflections are different on every of these bottles. That's because I was trying various styles. And I kinda like to make the bottle caps. They are just so easy to color or to make it in a glass effect. And I really started to like adding a lot of white highlights, especially on such small parts. So this is something that I'm still experimenting with. Speaking of experimenting with highlights and reflections, let's look into Worlds of Wonder by Johanna Basford. And yes, this is unfinished page, but I wanted to show you the experiments that I am doing with all the highlights. Let's first look at this bottle. Here I was experimenting with sparkles a lot, and again you can see the cap, how much sparkles and those white highlights it has. On the other hand, on this bottle I did the highlights very subtle, because first I wanted to make a total opposite to this bottle, and second, it's just calm, quiet and cozy night scene. So I thought that subtle highlights will be the best. If we need to talk about this bottle, this is just the same case like it was with the Polar Bear page, because I colored this years ago, maybe 2021 or so as well. I was using Arteza pencils. The highlights are way different, even less aligned with the bottle shape. You can really feel how insecure I was when I was doing these highlights and outlined the bottle. We can stay in this coloring book a little bit longer, because I did this page as well. As usually, watercolors for the background and colored pencils on the illustration, and some highlights with acrylic markers. Usually just watercolors and pencils are my go-to art media if it comes to any coloring page, especially if the background is large. I wasn't using any green on this page. I was only using blue and yellow. And when they mixed, they created green, of course, but it's so natural, it's so matching because it's actually the match of these two colors, right? And this is something I really like to do, not to use the middle color, but merge them and mix two colors to create the third one. Then I can be really sure that the tone is right. Anyway, sometimes I go beyond watercolors and pencils only, and I use other art media, and then I end up with a page like this. Firstly, I was using actually watercolors for the background. But again, my ideas change all the time, and in many cases I don't even remember what was my initial idea. And that's how I ended up covering all the watercolors on the background with oil pastels. And I was actually using Himi gouache for all the mushrooms. I'm still somehow new to gouache. I did only few pictures. I did some drawings or paintings of my own. And also I did 2 pages. I will show you another page in a minute. But I still have mixed feelings about it. It's not acrylic, it's not watercolor. It's more like acrylic paints though. And I just guess that I need more time with this medium, and I really believe that I can get along with it very well. When I was finished, I used oil pastels also for all the light that is going from the bottom of the mushroom caps. And that was it. It was interesting, challenging, and the result is great. I like it very much. Speaking of gouache, I did the second coloring page with it in the coloring book by Trolle. This is also her newest coloring book. And I did this page. I'm not really sure what I'm thinking about it. I was trying to make something similar I did in Johanna's coloring book here. Only the difference is that I was using watercolors for this page, and this is pure gouache, Himi gouache. So first of all, I'm not used to use this art medium. It's completely different than watercolors. Even if you dilute it with water, it doesn't behave like watercolors. So I had to do a little bit different technique. What I like on gouache is that you can easily add highlights. As you can see, I added some yellow highlights around the edges. Also, I was using masking fluid to cover the flies and the illustration, but it turned out that gouache actually creates quite thick layer over the masking fluid, and it's not that easy to get rid of it. So I ended up with some spots that I just couldn't remove from the page, and I had to use my pencils to color over the masking fluid that was covered with dried gouache, but it wasn't that well manageable on the plants, so I used gouache to cover everything, which was much better choice than using pencils. 2 more pages in this book. Both are completely different, right? Let's start with this one. As usually, watercolors for the background and colored pencils on the illustration and acrylic markers for the clouds. And I so enjoyed this color combination. Actually, this book is full of pages where this color palette fits perfectly. So hopefully I will have more chances to use it and to color in this book. And this second page, this was mixed media again. So at first I covered 2 hills that were here in a distance. I was using acrylic markers for the background, but then I decided that I want to have it really dramatic. I took my oil pastels and firstly I did the mountains. And then I went over it with oil pastels, and the mountains are also oil pastels. And then I took the yellow and orange oil pastels and black or some dark oil pastels, and I did some more dramatic clouds and these sun rays. Actually, this page was part of the ColorTober that I was hosting on my Patreon during the whole October. Maybe you heard about it or maybe not. Basically, it was fantasy story that merged my two favorite things, cats and fantasy. And I was actually inspired by Lord of the Rings, and I created a story of the Enchanted Palette, which was the artifact similar to the ring. We started our journey to defeat the Enchanted Palette that was binding all the colors and corrupted the artist's mind. And there were also some mini quests, and everything was going around coloring and coloring books. So on weekly basis there was a coloring quest with some prompts and challenges, and it was really fun. We all enjoyed that. And if you want to join as well and try these coloring challenges and quests, it doesn't matter that it's not October anymore, because everything, all the quests, all the challenges are still on my Patreon. So everyone who wants can join anytime. It will just always be there. Speaking of the ColorTober, I have more pages, obviously, if there were weekly challenges, and of course that I did all the challenges together with all the members. So this page from Mountain King by R.J.Hampson was one of them. I think this was for the first week. At first, this page seemed to be so easy. There is actually not that much on the page, right? But it was the opposite. It wasn't easy at all. I was using a lot of pencils. Basically, everything is colored pencils in the main square and only oil pastels for the background. So yeah, pretty challenging. Another picture for the ColorTober, and it was actually for the mini quest, was to color the lantern for the festival. And I did the tutorial on how to color glowing lantern like this. It is from the Meine, Reise, Durch, Asien by Rita Berman. However, this technique can be used on any lantern or any object that you want to be glowing. Another page for the ColorTober is from Forest of Fantasy coloring book by Mei Yu. It was for the week when we met mythical creatures. So I chose this page. I also used it for the review of the Artex pencils. The whole page is colored with Artex pencils and with some metallic paint. If you are interested to see really in-depth review on these pencils, you can check out the review. The link will be in the description box. Another mini picture for the mini quest is from Daydreams coloring book by Gabi, and the challenge here was to create the window to another world. And I did the tutorial on how you can create a window frame on the illustration that has no window frame. You know, it looked like this. Another ColorTober page is from Small Victories by Johanna Basford, and the challenge here was to make contrast. I decided to make warm and cold, but I cannot remember what I was using for the background. I think it could be Nia colors or something like this. I'm not really sure at this moment what it could be. It's somehow waxy. I think it could be Nia colors. And of course, colored pencils on the illustration. In this coloring book, I have another page that is unfinished, actually. And I'm not sure, but I think that I did this for the ColorTober as well. What I know for sure is that color alongs for these two pictures are on my YouTube, so you can check it out if you like. It is the next day today because I was already so tired that I needed to go to bed. But today I realized that I colored one more picture by Kerby, and it's in Dark Fairytales. And I did actually this double page. It was a real challenge because it's double page. I was using Derwent Ink 10s for the base and for the background. I also covered the outlines for the smoke with acrylic paint, and I also added these strings on her hands, so she does look more like a puppet that is controlled not only by the red shoes but also by these strings. There are a few more pages left, and let's start with Mei Yu, 30 Days of Cute Witches. Here I have this page. What I like about these illustrations in all Mei Yu's coloring books is that you have only little illustration but a lot of space for your backgrounds. I chose this picture to color for my Patreon. I colored the witch with colored pencils, and then the background is with oil pastels. So let's look at the coloring books by Rita Berman. One older and one newer, well actually the newest book by Rita, and I did several pages, well only 2. So this is the first page that I am currently doing like full page color along on YouTube, and it has 5 parts. Every illustration plus background is in separate parts. At this moment we have 3 of them already out. However, I am doing more pages for full pages color along, so I am switching between them, which means it can take some while before the full page will be out on YouTube. So if you don't want to wait, and if you want to see the full process of the full page right now, you can check out my Patreon because I already uploaded all the parts there. And as usually, I was using watercolors for the background and colored pencils for the illustrations and some acrylic paint pens for the stars and highlights. Second page I have in this book is this traveling page. I was trying to use different colors than I'm normally using, but I was quite unhappy with the result. It's definitely not my usual style, and actually I'm trying, and especially because I'm new to Rita Berman's coloring books. This was actually only the second picture that I ever colored from any of Rita's books. Also, if you say Rita Berman, you can imagine a specific style, which is very subtle, colorful, cozy, and so beautiful. And I cannot do that. I cannot make the page that subtle, you know. So I had mixed feelings when I was coloring the page, and still have a little bit. I feel kind of weird to see Rita's page colored in this style, but at least it's a little bit different, right? And also, once I added the background, it also completely changed the page. I covered all the flowers here and the foliage because I just couldn't make it. I tried to color it, but it was just too detailed and I was so tired already, and I just couldn't make myself to color every single leaf here. So I just covered everything in black, suggesting that it's just the silhouette. Last page for this video is from Meine Winter Spaziergang, and I did this picture. It's quite recent. It's actually the last picture I did in November, and it was the first time I was trying this bokeh effect on the background. The best thing on the background like this is that at the beginning it doesn't look like this at all. A little bit afraid during the process that it will not give the good result. However, as I was progressing, it suddenly started to have a form and started to make sense, actually. The more of the circles I added, the better it was. And I added some shiny metallic, golden metallic paint splashes. Of course, all the pages that I'm coloring for my YouTube, and you know that on YouTube I have edited version in a little bit of cinematic style. Anyway, for everyone who wants to follow along and to see full coloring process, I always put the full version, the full footage on my Patreon. So I just wanted you to know that there is this option as well. Alright, I hope I could bring some inspiration to you. Have a awesome day and see you in the next video. Bye bye!